Good morning everybody and welcome to this week's video. This week actually the video was prompted by the fact that I visited one of my local sites and I was looking for a place where I could photograph kingfishers. I've been looking for a decent place for a while and I had a couple of places that I'd been to in the past that I'd used and I was quite happy with. So I went down a couple of days ago to have a look, and to be honest, the river is just completely choked with weed and the banks are so overgrown nothing can fly down it. It's ridiculous. So it's really not going to be that useful for kingfishers this year. And the area I had in mind was also at one time had a small population of water vole, and I was hoping to go down and do some photography of those. Well, to be honest, you can't even get to the banks. I'm pretty sure, well, I'm not sure whether there's a population still there or not. It'd be incredibly difficult to photograph because it's just a mess down there. There's really no open water at all. So that meant I was looking for a site to come and do some of this photography, and with water vole in mind, I've come to a site called Cromford Canal in Derbyshire. Now this is sort of nationally renowned as having a population of water vole which have decreased massively over the last 20 years. Not sure whether I'll see any today or not. I'm just really looking for signs. What I've actually done, I've parked at a place called Cromford and I'm going to walk all the way to Ambergate, which is like where the Cromford Canal runs to and from, just really to see what's around. Now, I've already, after walking 10 minutes, seen that there's loads of little grebe here and they're so tolerant of people. I think that's because this is such a popular walk that you get loads of people walking down here all the time, and you know, they're just not fazed. Now, most of the ducks aren't at all. So what I'm going to do this morning is take a walk down here, see what I can find, and obviously I'll report back to you as I find things. Right, I'm just reporting back in. Whoa. Made a really bad tactical error this morning. I had the choice of parking at Ambergate and walking to Cromford, or parking at Cromford and walking to Ambergate, and I chose to park at Cromford and walk to Ambergate, which has led to me walking into the sun as it's come up all the way down the canal, which makes it really difficult to see you know, in front of you what you've got basically. I would have been far better off walking from Ambergate to Cromford with the sun behind me. I would have been able to see really well then. As it is, it's quite difficult. So what I'm going to try and do is get down to Ambergate as quickly as I can. The other reason I'm getting down to Ambergate as quickly as I can is I was just speaking to a gentleman who walked past me, and I said, oh, I'm just looking for water voles. He says, oh, I think I might have seen one of them down at Ambergate, right as you come on to where the canal is. He said there was something chewing something, and he said it wasn't a duck. I says, well, that's more than likely going to have been a water vole then. So if I'd have started at Ambergate, I may have seen that this morning. So yeah, a little bit miffed actually at a bit of an error. But as I say, what I'm going to do is get down to Ambergate as quickly as I can, and then I can walk back, and the sun should be directly behind me then as well. So hopefully you know, we'll see more, and also it'll give me the shots lit from the. It'll give me shots that are lit from the front rather than backlit. But there is some nice green algae on the water here, which will look quite nice for some of these ducks as well. So yeah, it's a nice walk. It's a nice, easy walk. As I say, 5 miles out and 5 miles back, and yeah, we'll keep going. Right, so I've reached the end of the Cromford Canal. I've got to Ambergate. Haven't seen any water voles this morning. As I say, I made a slight error by coming in from the Cromford side rather than the Ambergate side. I would have had the sun behind me all the way. It would have been much easier to see into the bank. And I've seen some signs of water voles. I've seen some breeds that have been chewed that look like definitely a water vole's been chewing them, but just no actual water voles yet. What I'm going to do now is walk all the way back up to Cromford. Now have the sun behind me, so hopefully it'll make it a little bit easier I'd like to give a shout out as well to a guy called Mike Lane, another wildlife photographer who's recently, I think, done a video on water voles and how to find them, and he's got some really useful information in there, so I'll stick a link up here to that. One of the things he does look for is the holes of the water voles, and I think I've been hampered with that this morning because it looks like what they've done a lot here recently is they've cut the banks back, and obviously all that vegetation is then laid on top of any potential holes, so I can't see anything under all that, as well as the leaves have started to fall, and again that's covering any evidence as well, so it's made it quite difficult. So yeah, that's made it almost impossible to see that type of sign, I would say, this morning. Droppings wise, you can look for those, but we had a lot of rain last night, and I'm assuming that they're quite mushy, they are, so if you get any rain on them, it tends to wash them away, which is something else that Mike explains in his video. So yeah, I'm gonna head back up, hopefully see water voles, you never know. If not, I'll take some pictures of whatever I see, and I'll catch up with you in a bit. Just a point of interest on the way back here, I didn't notice these on the way down, but there's probably about 8 dead fish here, and there were some guys working on the canal further down, and I just sort of went and said to them, look, there's these 8 dead fish on the surface, and what they're saying to me is it's so shallow here and so full of weed that there's not enough oxygen. Just this particular section, I mean, it is a really overgrown in section, so it looks like it does need quite a lot of work on it, but yeah, it's really sad to see. There's certainly perch and a small pike in here, and 1 or 2 other different fish as well, so you can actually see that the weed is it's completely weeded up, so whether it is lack of oxygen or they've just not been able to work their way through, I don't know, but yeah, very sad to see. But right, as you can see, I've made it back to the car. I'd like to say I'm disappointed with today because I've not managed to see any water voles, and I suppose that's not surprising. And from the information I've gleaned while I've been walking around, although I did get that guy who said he'd thought he'd seen one, I was then talking to some guys who were doing the pulling some reeds out, doing some restoration, and they said they hadn't seen one for 2 years, and I'm more inclined to believe what they say, to be honest. But am I disappointed? Well, no, I'm not really, because I came here looking for potentially, or the potential for water voles, and I'm not sure I found it. I think I'd like to come back probably sometime in the late spring, early summer, and get here really early, so that I've got, you know, I'm talking 5 o'clock in the morning, so, you know, if there are going to be any around, it's going to be then, before the first dog walker or anybody goes down. Then, you know, if I don't see anything then, I can probably call it a day for here. But I'm not disappointed because if you've seen the footage I've got of the Dabchicks, or the little grebes, whatever you want to call them, in Nottinghamshire where I am, at Carlton-on-Trent, we've got loads of gravel pits and stuff, and we hardly ever see them at all. I think in the 20 odd years we've lived there, we've had one on one of the gravel pits, and that's the only one I've seen down there. Very rarely do we see them. I know they're not an uncommon bird, but the difference with up here is that there's literally dozens of them, and because there's so many people walking around all the time, they've very easy to get close to. So I'm certain today that I've got my best ever images of dabchicks, and with the autumn colours coming, just starting to come through on the trees and reflecting on the water, I'm so pleased with those shots. So would I come here again? Yes, I would. I think next time I come, I'll try and pay a little bit more attention to the other stuff around me, because there's an awful lot of bird life actually around the canal, because on one side you've generally got a really steep drop, and you're sort of looking into the mid to the top of the trees on one side. So, you know, I've sort of ignored that today. I've almost got a stiff neck by just looking down into the canal all the way there and back. But yeah, next time I come, I think I'll pay a little bit more attention to the other stuff around me, and if I see a water vole, then that's fine. But it is a really, really nice place. If you just want a nice walk, it's nice. The only problem I did have, and I can just see him coming back now, is on the way back. I mean, I was quite tired anyway, but so my concentration levels weren't particularly high for looking for water voles, but I had hoped to see some more stuff on the way back. But sort of a mile and a half from getting back to Cromford, there was a guy, probably about 60, dressed in all his, what I would call shooting gear, with a retriever, and basically throwing half a tree trunk into the canal all the way down for his dog to fetch out. And specifically says that, you know, you've got to have dogs on a lead and, you know, keep them out of the water. When you think this is one of the most sensitive places, or was, for water voles, if they have disappeared, it's hardly surprising. So yeah, there was a few ups and downs today, what with the dead fish as well, but a very, very interesting day. I hope you've enjoyed this video. I've certainly enjoyed making it, and as I say, I'm so pleased with these little grebe images, which I'm going to put up at the end of this video. I hope you enjoy them too. If you do, give the video a thumbs up, and for those of you, there's still quite a few of you out there who watch my videos and haven't subscribed to the channel. If you could subscribe, that would be great. It really helps the channel. And I'll see you next week for another one. Bye.